Phillips Ranch. Many of us have been around for over 30 years, and we'll all take very good care and thought process into what we want to do. Mayor is joining us this evening. Mayor, thank you for being here. We have some cards passed out, and I'd like you to hold your questions and answer questions until after the end of the meeting. And you can either yell out that. Can everyone hear my voice okay? You can either shout out your questions, or if you feel not like talking, you're welcome to fill out a card. If you could please pass those out. Denise. Thank you. Okay. So I'd like to start out by allowing us to introduce ourselves. I kind of got involved with this myself. I've been here for over 30 years. I had a problem in the area in which I lived, and the trees were overgrown and coming out of my property, and I was very concerned about safety. Needless to say, when you drive down the Greenbelt area, it doesn't look like it did for some of you who've been here a long time. It doesn't look like it used to look. There's some very good reasons for that, and I think to a person on this committee, we all came in with one thought, and that is, city, why aren't you doing your job? And we've been educated, and now we know why, and we're looking for a solution to correct it. So with that, I'd like all the committee members to introduce themselves and tell you how many years you've been around and why you're on the committee. This is our vice chair.
Good evening. I'm Scott Harmon, and I've been here 19 years. And my motivation for getting involved in the community was perhaps a little bit different than some of the other folks. Having been here for 19 years and enjoyed the community, and quite frankly, I have to admit still, when I drive down into the ranch from up Temple onto Avenida Rancheros, I still think it's beautiful, and I still appreciate when I'm driving in there. It's like, I live in a great place. But having been here for 19 years, I felt a little guilty because I've seen on social media all kinds of people doing things for the community, and I thought, you know what, I can give back. I'm a busy guy, but I can give back something. So when I heard about this committee that was charged with the task of coming to some recommendation what we're going to do with these common areas, I thought, you know, I can help out. So that was my motivation to get involved. So anyway, thanks.
Brian?
Brian Mundy, been in the community for just a little over 30 years. I was here at the community meeting when we first started talking about some of the issues we had in our greenbelt and maintenance areas. And I made a suggestion that maybe we should have an oversight committee. And here I am. So it's been incredible as far as education, understanding. I had no idea. I mean, most of us think of it as just mow and blow, guys that are just running around on lawnmowers, but it goes so much deeper. It goes into hundreds of acres of land that need to be maintained.
Good evening, Steve Lustro. My wife and I have lived in Phillips Ranch for almost 36 years. And I think my motivation for applying to this committee was, as Dennis said earlier, those of us who have lived here for a long time, we remember how the common areas in Phillips Ranch used to be maintained when we first moved here, and maybe for the first 15 or 20 years. And my interest in being on the committee was to contribute or do my part to see what we can do to try to get back to that point again.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Philip Marino. I've lived here all my life. I'm 38, so I've been here for 38 years. I'm actually a product of Phillips Ranch, so I've seen all the changes. I used to run through all these hills. We used to play football. I used to do everything. So my background is I work for a local municipality, and I do contract administration for the landscape contractors. So I know what expectations are. I know I have expertise to oversee and what the landscape area should be. So that's why I'm part of this committee, so I can help out and try to get things back to where it once was.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Barry Lawrence. I've lived here in the ranch for 40 years on Thanksgiving. In the early days, when we didn't have blacktop on the roads, that's how long we've been here. And the landscaping came in, and the landscaping was beautiful, and the ranch looked better and better as each development came online. And then slowly, that's faded away. The ranch looks pretty untidy now. And like many of these other board members, I thought it was a problem with the city. The city are not doing what they should be doing. The contractors are not doing what they're doing. So I joined this committee and I found that the city are doing everything they can for us. And city staff work very, very long hours to try and get this under control. And over the last, how many, 22 meetings?
35.
35.
We've learned an awful lot, which we're going to share with you tonight. And I hope you find it as interesting as we do.
Ron?
Good evening, my name is Ron Lopez. We have been in the ranch about 18 years, and we were in the West Lawn for 15 years before that. Our family moved to the PUSD system, and we love this area, and I'm also a member of Pomona Clean and Green. So we, one of the reasons I volunteered is just every time somebody comes to our house, they always say, you have such beautiful green open space. You know, that's one of the reasons we came here, because it's so lovely, and I thought this is a great opportunity. And believe me, we don't have any of the answers, but we'll be the first to tell you. We're out here seeking your input and your advice. This is really a community effort, so thank you.
Eric?
Hi, my name is Eric Young, and I moved to Phillips Ranch in 1981. So it's been 37 years, give or take a few months. And my reason for moving here was at that time interest rates, which were really great compared to everything else.
Yes.
But also with what the community was offering in terms of spaces, the planned community, all those elements. My reasons for joining this committee was the same as what everyone else has stated. It's primarily issue of safety, appearance, because if you look at the green areas, and you're driving by 35 miles an hour, they look pretty good, but when you walk through them, you can start seeing a deterioration of the grounds. If you have any walkways behind your home, you can see that they're no longer maintained as they were 15 plus years ago. So again, my reason was to find out why things look the way they look. I learned a lot. I didn't realize how much acreage built in that had to be maintained. But that's why I joined this community.
Thank you, Eric. And now I'd like to introduce Meg McQuaid. She's our Public Works Director, and she'll introduce city staff. And when she's done introducing city staff, we're going to see a short video that Brian Mundy and his daughter were kind enough to take with Michael Sledd. Please, Meg.
Hi, I'm Meg McQuaid. I've been with the city of Pomona for 25 years. I'm very honored to serve the city of Pomona. I absolutely love it here. Very grateful for the committee and for being part of this. Denise Radon, who helped put together this meeting. I'll share it.
Denise.
If you have an issue, this is the voice that you're talking to. Mr. Sledd, Michael Sledd, is our Parks and Facility Manager. Are you? You'll see a lot more of Michael on the video. And then Onyx Jones, I'm very grateful that she's here.
Yes.
Is responsible for the entire finances of the city of Pomona. She's our finance director. And then we're grateful for our partners in the LA County. So Assistant Chief Lopez is with us tonight.
Thank you, Meg. With that, let's view the video. I'd like everyone to get to know the city workers that we have. And here's Michael. Speak, Michael.
Since the end of October last year, so I'm just coming up on my first year here with the city. Prior to coming to the city, I was in Iowa. I worked for Polk County Conservation there. Polk County is the county where Des Moines is located. There I was the park superintendent, so I managed all of our parks. We have about 13,000 acres there, which is close to the size of the city of Pomona, although much more open space and less urban, of course. The units under me there were park rangers who were police officers and patrol our parks and manage the campgrounds, and then the maintenance people who did all of our grounds maintenance and our facilities maintenance. And prior to that, I was with the city of Austin. When I left for the city of Austin, I was titled Recreation Program Manager. The area I was actually over was the Zilker Botanical Gardens, the Community Gardens Program, and Sustainable Agriculture for the city, which was a program where we allowed residents to build gardens on city-owned lands using specific agreements that we had set up with them to where it was engaging them and using these underutilized locations. And then also managed the Austin Nature Preserves, which was a series of different properties, a lot of wildlands, sort of similar to here. And then I managed wildfire mitigation, which was one of my main tasks. Prior to doing that, I was with the park rangers there. I started out as Park Ranger 1 and moved up eventually through the ranks to become the Park Ranger Program Manager. While with the Park Rangers, I also managed the nature preserves, but that moved over with me to my new area when I took that over. Prior to going into government, I worked as an environmental consultant. I worked at Home Depot all through my undergrad years. So that for school, I went to the University of Texas. I'm from Austin, Texas. Originally, I went to the University of Texas for undergrad. Got my degree in anthropology with a minor in geography. And then for grad school, I went to Texas State University, where I got my master's degree in geography with a focus on resource and environmental studies. And specifically, my research was focused on surface water quality and land use variation. I'm a certified arborist. I'm a certified playground safety inspector. And I have a lot of emergency management experience. So those things combined are part of why, along with the wildfire things, they really thought I was a good fit for dealing with some of the concerns we have here in the city.
And what are your responsibilities in the city?
So my title here at the city is Parks and Facilities Manager, which is somewhat descriptive of what I do. I manage all the parks in the cities. I manage all the city's facilities other than the police station and the water facilities. I don't do anything with the water tanks and things like that. But City Hall, the library, city council chambers, all the rec centers, those are all included in the facilities managed, along with various historic buildings. And then I manage the parks, as I mentioned. I manage all the street trees and the landscaping that the city maintains around. So that includes Phillips Ranch, but it also includes medians throughout the city, various other random lots that are kind of scattered throughout, multiple contracts. I manage the security for all the parks, for City Hall, for the libraries their own, although we assist with that, and then for the Metrolinks. We oversee the two Metrolinks. There's the one downtown, and then there's the station up north. So we oversee the security for that, and also the maintenance of the facilities to a certain extent where it terminates with transit needing to take over. And we manage janitorial contract for all the city facilities. And then I also act as a city arborist. So for all the planning and review, both on public land and private, I'm the one they come to look at landscape plans, to approve whether trees are going to get taken out, provide input on those things. So a lot of different hats.
Being in your new position and having looked at the contract with a fresh set of eyes, what are different ways you think you could improve the contract in Phillips Ranch?
Well, one thing that the city will be able to improve in the next one, and the current contract is set to expire in less than a year, is that right at the beginning with the bid process, prior to this, the cities usually used the bid process of just going with the lowest bidder. But recently we've transitioned. Since I started coming, it wasn't my idea, but since I came here, we have been using a process where we first pre-qualify the bidders and then go to it still ends up being the lowest bid of those pre-qualified people, but it allows us to eliminate people based on their qualifications who maybe are not qualified to do it. The issue with the lowest bid is that you're now stuck with a bid, and that contractor may not be able to accomplish the work that they said they can do. And yes, you can go back and penalize them and go after their bond that they may have put up and do all those things, but that's a lot of extra work just to get back to base zero rather than doing it right from the very beginning. So that's one thing that I think will definitely improve the process, is being able to do that pre-qualifying assessment of the contractor's qualifications. Along with that, coming here, your typical public works person in most places did not have a lot of what I would call wildland background as far as managing what I would call more undeveloped spaces. We have 4 different types of management sort of areas within the current contracts. We have slope/ground cover, which is what this area we're standing in right now. We have turf areas, which are pretty self-explanatory to most people. And then we have fuel modification areas, which are supposed to be a certain border around structures where it's meant to be mitigated for fuel dangers, either by thinning out the vegetation, limbing up trees, keeping dead stuff out of there. And then we have what they call open space, which is not a great descriptive term, so that's something we'd probably try and change to make, more descriptive of what the space actually is and how it's going to be maintained. And so I think coming in here with this different perspective on how you maintain those lands to create public safety, like for instance with fuel modification, but also create an appealing landscape that's not really difficult to maintain. A lot of our fuel modification areas, for example, were originally planned to have irrigation going all the time and watering the plants, and that's fine if you have unlimited resources to come out and cut back that vegetation at all times. But if you run out of those resources, you're now left with an asset that you can't manage because those plants have grown up. Once the water stops working because the irrigation has gotten too damaged, then those plants are going to die. And now you have an issue with going in and removing all those things and having to revegetate with something else, along with, are you going to repair that infrastructure or are you going to remove it? It's just a huge way to manage an open space that, maybe is not the best way to do it. Part of that is created by historical choices, made not just here, but everywhere, as far as what kind of landscaping people think that they do. They don't think it, they do want it. It's landscaping that they want, the changing perspectives on, what is a sustainable practice based on the environment. What Southern California might be able to sustain as far as water and temperatures and things like that 40 years ago when the Phillips Ranch was first started is very different from what we can sustain now with the population and, changing environmental factors that we're dealing with. So going back and looking at those different areas with that eye and seeing whether we want to keep those standards, but also working with the community to get an idea to educate them, because you can't just change everything over without getting input from the people who live here, because they're the ones who, it's they're the ones going to be looking at it every day. They're the ones paying a special assessment to help maintain it. And so you want to get that community buy-in, otherwise you're doing it all for nothing, essentially. So going back and looking at it with that eye, but also looking at the contract and seeing whether it should all be under one person. Right now, we essentially have 2 contractors who maintain the different areas in Phillips Ranch. You have the landscaping contractor, and they maintain everything under the landscape except for the parks. That's a common misconception, is the parks are part of that. The parks are actually maintained by the general fund and a different contractor. And then we have the tree contractor who comes in and maintains the trees. So, as I mentioned earlier, the landscaping portion of it's broken up into those 4 different areas. And so you're looking at one company to do all of these things in the way it's currently bid under one contract. But oftentimes a company that's good at maintaining turf and more maintained areas is not going to have the equipment and the understanding, the experience to maintain something that requires a lot more intensive work. Like you go to these fuel modification areas where it's, you're maintaining heavy brush. You might be having to cut up down logs and things along those lines, and it's just very different expertise, equipment, and it's very rare that you're going to find a company that's great at both. I mean, there's a golf course maintenance person is not going to be good for maintaining your fuel modification area. And so one other big thing I wanted to add to that, I mentioned a little earlier, is really working with the community. So we have the ad hoc committee that some of you are probably aware of, that was formed to help review the current assessment of the contract and make a recommendation on how the city should go forward with those things and present that to the voters, possibly. So one thing we'd like to do is really set up some sort of permanent mechanism where we engage with the community and allow them to have a more direct forum that's established, not ad hoc, to where they can work with the city to really help see these issues. Anytime you have tax and assessment, there's 2 ways to see that. You can see it as it's supposed to fund all of these services, and it does. It helps fund services, but you can get more if the community is involved as well. The community can still do a part. They don't have to necessarily they can be doing volunteer work, or they could just be the eyes and ears. One of the biggest things is this is a huge area. It's a very complex area. It's not one, if you just see the acreages, you might not think it's that massive, but it's the way that it's set up. You have some big pieces of land, you have other pieces of land that are just little strips that run behind houses that are very hard to reach. So that aspect of it makes it very difficult to maintain and to keep constant eyes on it if you have limited staff. So engaging the people, getting into where they report problems to it, we often, and knowing who to contact, we often receive calls from people where it's, I've been calling the city for this many years and I've spoken to all these many people, and a lot of times it just wasn't, they weren't having trouble getting in contact with the right person who could help them address that problem. And so just making those avenues open, educating the public on how they can help us manage this land.
Since you've been with the city, I understand that you've already made some changes to the contracts that currently exist. What changes have you made?
So the major change we've made in how we're managing things right now with the contractor is that I immediately noticed from visiting all the different sites that the biggest area they're having trouble keeping up to standards, or returning to standards more so I should say, were the fuel modification areas. So within the contract, there's a mechanism for penalizing the contractor to go after them and say, we're deducting this amount of money for not accomplishing this task. Or actually, you notify them this needs to be done by this date, and after 5 days, they get penalized, and then they get penalized every day after that if they haven't completed it. So that's a really labor-intensive process to try and do that. And we looked at it, and based on the current contract and how it was bid, I made the assessment that I don't think that they could probably succeed in that. And so rather than investing a bunch of time in penalizing them, or essentially not paying them for something, I approached them with the idea that they no longer do fuel modification work, and that they would no longer invoice us for it, and we would no longer pay them for that aspect of the contract, and we would take that money and seek other methods to accomplish that task. We visited a couple sites to get their buy-in on that, and they agreed to it. It still has to be finally approved, but I did receive the latest invoice today for the last month since we did this, and they did not invoice it for us based upon our agreement. So we're heading forward. Right now we're approaching it trying from various different directions. We're talking to a lot of different people. We're going to be talking to LA County Fire to see if they might be able to provide some assistance. We've been talking to the Department of Agriculture from the county also to see if there are people who do weed abatement, if you're not familiar with it. We're going to be talking with them. They've actually given us quotes for a couple areas and done work for us in a few areas where they sent us quotes for how they could do the work. The one benefit for them is they're specifically looking to adhere to the county's fire code. So that's their job, is to enforce that. And so when we have that, you're essentially getting kind of that, stamp of approval. Yes, we've made this how it is supposed to be based on the fire code for safety purposes. Also, since they are another governmental agency, it helps streamline the purchasing process with them. Another alternative we're looking that's also government agency is through the state. It's with the California Conservation Corps. They do a lot of fuel modification work, so we're looking to use them in various areas. They also charge relatively flat rates, which makes it pretty easy to do, and you're getting the supplemental service of, having these young people out here engaging in public service and doing the work and getting that experience and all the good things that brings along with it. So those are multiple approaches we're looking to accomplish that task. We have some hourly employees, and we've been dedicating them at least one day every day. They only work 2 days a week, so 2 20-hour, 2 10-hour days. We've been having them and focusing on sending them out as a supplement, just helping hit areas. Those are people paid out of the general fund actually, but it's something that we need to get accomplished. We know, particularly because we technically have removed that section from the contract, we have to supplement it somehow. So we've been sending them out to do it. And we're also looking at reclassifying a current position that we have and allocating it to being a person who's specifically dedicated to the ranch. Their funding then for their salary will be paid exclusively out of the Phillips Ranch Assessment District. And this will be their only job. And that breaks up the difficulty. Right now, different staff members' salaries are paid out of all different funds. And so tracking that time and seeing if they're really, getting are we spending 10% of this person's time working on this, or 5% working on that? This person, having them 100% funded out of the ranch budget will make it so that that person is dedicated here, not only to doing work during time when they're not directly overseeing the contractor, but just have those eyes on the contractor, checking their work, constantly inspecting, looking for issues and for things that are not being done.
Is there anything else that you would like to tell the residents of Phillips Ranch regarding the district assessment fees and the maintenance contract?
Biggest issue a lot of times is making contact, so I would like to encourage people, if you see issues, call into our office line. It's 909-620-2223. There's someone there almost typically Monday through Thursday from 7:30 to 6 p.m. So there's someone there at that line almost always during that time of day. They check their voicemail religiously. They come in on Mondays and they check it again and they send that out to create work requests. We may not get to something the next day, but you should hear back from somebody within a couple days. And we will do our best to try and address that issue, whether it's through the contractor, sending staff out to do it, trying to find a solution, at least keeping you informed about what we're doing. And I'd like you to know that, we've been working with this ad hoc committee, which is made up of members from your community. You couldn't be on it if you weren't from the community. So these are all interested people. We've been working with them to try and find solutions and to improve the state of things out here. And whether that includes an increase, whether it doesn't, whether it includes adjustments to how we maintain things, all those options are on the table. And we want to do what the community most desires and look to work hand in hand with the community on a consistent basis heading forward into the future.
I think we're very fortunate that the city hired Michael. He's a very talented young man, and I think you get a pretty good feeling for the fact that the city staff is looking to work with us with the funds that we have to do the very best job they can. One housekeeping note, if you already haven't silenced your cell phones, would you kindly do so? And next, what a timely presentation we're going to have by Chief Lopez with LA County Fire, particularly in light of the tragedies that we've had over the last week in fire and loss of homes and life. Chief Lopez?
Good evening, everybody. I'm gonna have a little video to show. So we can clarify a few questions that I was asked before I got here. So Jay Lopez, I'm a Forester Assistant Chief for Los Angeles County Fire Department. So within the Los Angeles County Fire Department is a Forester division that deals with the wildland fire issues. Anything before, during, and after a fire, or everything before, during, and after a disturbance of those lands. So I have 32 years of experience, and what I want to come over here, what we do is to lend that experience to the committee, to Michael and the city, to assist you in which way I can to make some decisions on the type of management you want to do with these lands that you have. And we'll follow all the local, state, and federal rules that are applied, and that's my expertise. So I'm part of the sounding board for you guys to help you make certain sound decisions. And like I said, I've been doing it for 32 years, so what I can do is help. So we do, to show that video, there's a few questions. Is that working? And so we'll answer some of the questions that I was asked before I got here.
I'm Los Angeles County Fire Chief Gerald Osby. In Southern California, dry vegetation is what makes a fire season year-round. and hot, gusty Santa Ana winds only make conditions worse, which fuel wildfires in our region. In this video, you'll get a quick overview of the Ready, Set, Go program and wildfire action plan, and how you as a homeowner can do your part to be prepared for emergencies. The three-part program begins with you getting ready with advanced planning, getting set by developing a plan, and making sure you go when it's time to evacuate. By following the Ready, Set, Go program, together we are all making a difference by protecting our families, neighbors, and property through planning and preparation. Thank you for watching, and be safe.
Hi, I'm Acting Forestry Division Chief Mike Takeshita from the Los Angeles County Fire Department. Let's start with getting ready. That means complying with the county's brush clearance requirements. And getting ready also means creating defensible space so a home has the greatest potential to survive a wildfire. So what is defensible space? Defensible space is the area around your home and other structures that are free and clear of flammable vegetation and other easily ignitable objects like patio furniture or yard decor. This space should be wide enough to help prevent flames and radiant heat from reaching anything that could burn, like your home. Here's how it's done. Imagine your property is divided into two different zones. In Zone 1, to protect your property, all flammable native and ornamental vegetation should be removed 30 feet away from any structure. And in Zone 2, the protective space extends an additional 70 feet away from structures for a total that meets the required 100 feet of defensible space. In some high fire hazard areas, the required buffer space may extend to meet a total of 200 feet. All the area in the zones should be thinned out to slow a fire's progress by reducing the continuity of flammable vegetation. Besides defensible space planning, you will also need to harden your home. Newer homes are built to fire code standards, but are still risks from windblown embers that can find vulnerable areas in your home. Pay attention to openings in your roof, eaves, vents, walls, windows, doors, chimneys, balconies, and decks. A windblown ember can easily enter through these weak spots and quickly engulf a home in flames. Clearing pine needles, leaves, and other debris from your roof and rain gutters and under or around decks or stairs goes a long way in fire prevention too. Following these measures can protect you and your family and harden your home.
Hi, my name is David Richardson. I'm the Chief Deputy of Emergency Operations for the Los Angeles County Fire Department. The next step of the Ready, Set, Go program is getting set by preparing your family's personalized wildfire action plan. The plan is available at your local fire station or downloadable from our website. Be sure to include every member of your family in the plan, including your pets. In the Wildfire Action Plan, you can use our detailed checklist to create your personal plan. Part of your planning will involve determining different escape routes, as well as emergency meeting locations, knowing where and how to shut off controls for your property's natural gas, propane, electricity, and the water main, and putting together emergency supply kits for your home and vehicle. Remember to update the plan, rehearse it, and post it where you can see it. When there's little time to react during an emergency, your personal wildfire action plan will help guide you and your family during those critical moments. The final part of the Ready, Set, Go program is to go early. Time is crucial during an emergency. Every minute counts. So if you see a fire approach in your area, remember, the safety of you and your family is the priority. When you evacuate early, you give your family the best chance of surviving a wildfire. And you help make our job as firefighters easier by giving us and our fire engines free and clear access to roadways and entry points. When you evacuate or leave early, you avoid getting caught in fire, smoke, or traffic jams. Remember, you do not need to be told by the authorities to leave. And if you and your family are advised to go, do not hesitate. Go. When it is time to leave, head to a location that is low risk, like a relative or friend's house, or or an evacuation center. Remember to take your emergency supply kits with you. And don't forget hard-to-replace valuables such as photos, important documents, and computers. While you're away, stay tuned to your local news or follow your local authorities, such as the sheriff, police, or fire departments, on social media to remain up to date on the latest information regarding fires that are affecting you. Los Angeles County is an amazing place, full of different kinds of geographic landscapes, from seaside communities to inland neighborhoods. But no matter where you live, the best ways to protect your family during an emergency, especially wildfires, are through preparation and prevention. For more details about the Ready, Set, Go program and to download the Wildfire Action Plan, visit the Los Angeles County Fire Department's website at fire.lacounty.gov. Thank you and be safe.
Thank you everybody for watching. So any questions that you have about what you just saw?
Well, I have a question as far as the clearance around our house. I don't know if it's possible to see 30 feet, just because our neighbors are 30 feet. They're already there. Where I live, part of our house, our property is up on a slope. So we actually cleared up our slope so that we wouldn't have anything. But some of our neighbors' slopes, looks like a jungle. Would the city send them a notice saying that you should clear out some of that slope, or does it not matter because it's still within their property?
So, great question. So a few things. First of all, we inspect certain amount of homes here in the city of Pomona. You get a card from us saying in February saying on May 1st or around that time, we're gonna come by and inspect the property, making sure that the annual defensible space work has been completed. The defensible space work that we ask you to do is only within your property. If it's something outside of your property, you can call your local fire station and say, this is my property right here, but this is something within 100 feet or up to 200 feet from my structure. Can you take a look at firefighter safety? They will write a complaint form, which is a form that a special form, and it will come to my office, and they will apply to take care of that. There's two ways to do it. One, working with the property owner to get it done, they do it themselves. Or the second one is to have our crews that we hire with the agricultural commissioner office, and they will do the work, and then show us up in the tax period. So the step number one is to go to the local fire station and let them know that you're kind of concerned about it. Yes.
Yes, hi. We live actually, our house is on top of the hill, and there's a slope behind that, and if you were a fence, it's approximately 30 to 35 feet, and the rest of it is city-owned property, and it's a very steep slope. Now, that's one of the reasons why we're here, because we don't have that defensible space. We have a lot of brush, spider trees, very high, and as you know from a canyon, it becomes, the wind tunnel, if anything does start. So, it's the city's responsibility to go ahead and clear that area. So.
Yeah, a great point, and that's one of the things that working with the city, that's one of the costs to do it. He set up an integrated vegetation management plan for those areas, so he didn't immediately adjacent to the road, especially those first 100 feet. By the way, those first 100 feet is where you're most effective. You can use some work to reduce the fire hazard to your house. The best effective way you can reduce the fire hazard to your house is the house itself. I don't know the fires that we just got. One of the main reasons that we lost homes, it was the ember actually entering the home, not so much the flaming home. But the whole idea is to work with the city to create a vegetation management plan, starting from the home out. And I think those areas will be addressed in that part in there. Now, we have to be careful to what is done in those areas, especially when you have different type of soils, different type of structure, the topography. There's so much you can take before you start compromising the hillside. So we will work on that, making sure that it's ecologically and naturally sound, how much is taken out of that area to create that vegetation.
Can I just add one thing too?
Yes, sir.
And I'm not sure where you live, but that area,
Franciscan Place.
okay, and I don't know off the top of my head if that's included in the Phillips Ranch assessment area, but that's one of the reasons why we're in this position we're in now, right? There's not enough funds to clear that kind of thing out. So it could very well be that that's specifically one of the things we're going to talk about shortly.
It will be.
I saw another hand somewhere here.
I was just kind of curious, and we've got to look curious. The Parks and Rec side, there's the beautification. Money is one issue. I'm not even talking about the money issue. The beautification, like we live down this area where we've got all these beautiful pine trees, but we realize that's fire hazard. And I don't even know, like we had a neighbor that cut out a bunch of stuff in his hill, and I don't know if those were redwoods or pines or protected or not, but he just did it anyway. So I mean, there's one side that you want to preserve as much of the beauty as possible, and then you got the flip side, which is just the practical, where you got this new development next to us that has no trees, but then that's a hardened landscape. So, where do you find the balance? And I don't know if I have an answer. I'm just saying, like, what do you usually do? You try and take the hardening as the fire hazard as the number one priority, and the beautification as the secondary priority?
I think I could probably answer that, and that's exactly why we're assembled as an ad hoc committee. With the funds that we have, and you're going to see it throughout the presentation, and at the end, it's what do you want to do? You want safety first? We've got a lot of fire hazards. We've got a lot of trees that are dead, even along the greenbelt area. So it's where should we apply the money? And I think at the end of the presentation, you'll see where we've been and where we think we should be heading. So.
And just to complement that real quick, it's just using best management practices, and you have the right tree or the right plant for the right location. So, for example, palm trees, beautiful trees that look great by the beach, but you see how they burn in these areas, right? Maybe not the best choice. So in some areas you might have some areas that applies in the corridor that it's okay to have some pine trees, or maybe not the best choice on the hillside. So that's what we try to be working together and making the best, using science as a sound board, the best decisions and what to put in.
Thank you very much, Chief. We appreciate you being here. Next, during the introductions, I think that both Brian and Eric mentioned that they didn't realize the scope and the size of all of the landscape that we have within our assessment district. We're going to take a look at current conditions. Go ahead.
The mayor going to speak before that presentation starts?
Mayor, do you care to say a few words? No. Nope. Got it. No. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So we're going to take a look at the current conditions. There are so many things that we all learn. There are areas of trees, fuel modification areas, open space areas, turf areas, slope and ground cover areas, irrigation, ditches, walkways, trash pickup baskets, dog stations, fences, et cetera, et cetera. And with that, we'll pulse through the presentation. Michael, perhaps you could walk us through trees.
Yeah.
Trees. It is number 6. There we are.
So yeah, this is just showing a list of the work we have on record from the tree contract.
You guys hear Michael over there?
Since 2010. In Phillips Ranch, at this point, there are about 12,000 plus standing trees. That includes dead trees. As far as I don't remember the number off the top of my head for dead, but it's a decent amount. And then just the work that we've done. So you see Well, you saw grid prunings there. We've done 614 grid prunings. There hasn't been any bridge pruning since about 2014 or 2015. Grid pruning is kind of a lighter pruning. It's usually something you have to do regularly. It's done in other parts of the city, but those trees were already maintained at a certain level to where they could be grid pruned. At this point, most of the trees in the Phillips Ranch area really need what we would consider more of a special type pruning to be done to get to where they can even be grid pruned. They need to be crown reduced, or even, removed depending on their condition. So we've done primarily those, you can see, since 2010. Then you have emergency pruning, which is, if a big branch breaks off a tree or something like that, and it needs to be restored to a condition where it's still safe. Non-emergency prunings are kind of special call-outs. Emergency removals, similar type thing with the emergency pruning, except that you're actually having to take out the remainder of the tree. And then a few root springs here and there. Those are usually related to claims due to tree roots causing damage to sidewalks or water infrastructure, and also from branches falling on cars. And then one plant, that's it.
Let's take a look at some pictures of the trees.
One tree has been planted.
One tree. Saying that like that, this is all covered by, should be covered by the assessment, right? All this work.
Yeah, that inventory of trees is our responsibility.
So if you look at 12,000 trees, and the assessment is supposed to help maintain, you can see why and where we at.
Okay.
Is everyone clear on what the assessment is when we use that term?
Can you describe it? Because I've heard different things.
Okay. It is basically, it's a tax that we pay on our property tax. All of us pay about the same amount. It's about $278 a year that go into this assessment fee that's only used for Phillips Ranch. It's only used for Phillips Ranch. And this maintenance contract, this agreement for all these green areas, slopes, fire abatement areas, that's supposed to cover the maintenance of all those particular areas.
It's not a percentage at all.
It's a flat fee right now.
Can I just ask a really quick question, Michael? Is there an issue with, I don't know if it's native versus non-native vegetation
Yes.
in this assessment? Is that a concern at all to you?
I mean, I'm a big advocate for natives.
Is there a lot of non-native?
There are. I mean, those are primarily eucalyptus trees you're looking at right there. They're from Australia. Then those are all over the hillsides out there. They were a common tree planted in Southern California all over the place. So, yes.
But you think, is that the presence of these non-native trees that perhaps require more water than a native plant would, for example? I mean, would it be?
I guess the other question is, are there any natives? Because I think this is all planned community. I don't know if they put any natives.
There's some natives out there. Some of the, different natives require less water than others. One of the big issues with these trees, the eucalyptus in particular, is, and California peppers as well. They're not from California, they're from Peru. So both of those spread pretty readily. So you can have non-native plants that are not invasive. Crepe myrtles don't really pop up all over the place. Some people would probably like it if they did, but they don't. But both of those trees do. And so that's why on the hillside, for instance, right now, West Coast Arborist is out there getting a count of what the status of the trees is now, how many are there. So that number, that 12,000 plus, the reason I use a range there is that's from their last assessment in 2014. So how many trees are out there now? Quite a few, more than that. And so we're getting a handle on what that number is to try and help figure out what we need to do to get rid of them. Most of those eucalyptus are not something you would really look to have. You need to have a thicket of 2-inch big trees. If you want to have nice mature trees, great shade.
Can I ask one more time that we hold our questions till the end of the presentation? Perhaps some of those will be answered, and I think you'll have a better picture overall of what the assessment district is, where we've been, where we're at now, and where we need to go. I appreciate your patience with that.
I'll add one more thing on the trees, just because I was running the numbers the other day. So when I looked at them, so I mentioned, the difference between grid pruning and crown reductions, which a lot of the trees need crown reductions in Phillips Ranch. To grid prune the amount of standing trees we have right now in the 4.5-year cycle, which is what we try to do, it would be $131,000 a year, just to grid prune. That's not including any of the crown reductions. Our current total tree budget for Phillips Ranch every year is $118,000. So.
All right, next, what we have up there now is the entire landscape district. We're going to go into all of the various areas. Next, you'll take a look at the fuel modification area, pictures of what fuel modification is. And many of you will recognize, go to the next picture, please. The area. This is near Cimarron Place and Los Coyotes Drive. Next. This is at the east edge of Rancho Laguna. Next, please. So this is behind homes on Willowbrook Lane. These are all fuel modification areas. This is on Rio Rancho.
And that's actually where LA County Fire has been doing some work down in so that area is not actually covered under the contract, but that's kind of, I couldn't find a better necessarily fuel modification area that is under the contract, so I used this to kind of try and give an idea of what it would want it to look more like rather than what you were seeing in this other picture.
And I want to thank both Michael and Brian Mundy for going out and taking all these pictures. Next, another area is called open space. Let's take a look at some pictures of open space. I don't know if anyone recognizes that, but it's at the intersection of Rancho Nevado Drive and Westbrook and Avenue Rancheros. Next, this is below home on Meadowview Drive. Next, this is near Cimarron Place and Los Coyotes Fire Road. Next, Rancho Laguna Drive and West Mission Boulevard. And now we'll talk about yet another area of responsibility, and that's the turf areas. The first slide here is the end of Quail Summit Circle. Some of these areas look pretty sad. I think you'll all admit that. Next is the intersection of Phillips Ranch Road and Village Loop Road. Yep. Next is the intersection of Phillips Ranch Road at Village Loop Road again. And here's a picture of the greenbelt. You may think that's grass, but it's really weeds. Talk about the slope and ground cover. I don't know if some of you remember what the slopes looked like, 30 years ago, 20 years ago. It was amazing. Go to the first slide, please. This is along Avenue Rancheros. This is along Old Pomona Road. Next one's Meadowview Drive near the intersection of Rio Rancho Road. Next is along, again, Avenue Rancheros. We're talking about irrigation. We've had a lot of theft in irrigation. People have been coming in and they've taken a lot of the backflow apparatus. And needless to say, the irrigation isn't where it should be. It was installed over 30 years ago, and that's one of the areas that we're taking a look at.
And to touch too on a lot of that irrigation, a lot of that missing plant material and dead plant material is because of the irrigation. It's been a long time with irrigation not working. That's the result that happens.
Homes behind Cimarron Place. Here's an example of, that's not even safe. It's immediately when Brian came back with that picture, Meg said, "Where's that location? Let's go out and change that cover. It's not safe." This is on Rio Rancho Road. Cimarron Place at Los Coyotes. It's a fire road. Take a look at the V-ditch here and look at what's in there. We're about to get the heavy rains, and that's going to be blocked. Also, tremendous fire hazard. Another V-ditch. A couple more. Let's talk about the walkways. I don't know how many of you enjoy those walkways. They certainly don't look like they used to look. I'll see those, please. So the assessment district is also responsible for litter and trash pickup stations, for dog waste stations, and all other maintenance considerations, such as the fences. Has anyone taken a good look at the fences of late? They're dilapidated. This was recently, correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, I think this was recently dug out.
Yeah.
Uncovered under, yeah.
Across there. It's
And we have a lot of this, especially as you enter the ranch on Phillips Ranch Road. There's actually a live creek there, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And over time, silt is formed. And when you look on the walkways, the difference between the walkway and the grass is 6 or 8 inches sometimes. So that's tremendously heavy thatch. Should we spend our money fixing that thatch, or should we spend our money cutting down trees that may be in the way of fire for homes? And here's exactly what we're talking about there. That's not a very good looking entrance to Phillips Ranch, needless to say. Also responsible for the water fountains. Has anyone used one of those of late? I think not. Okay. Thank you for the good.
If I could just add one thing here, this kind of illustrates the scope of the responsibility for this assessment district. And maybe if one of the committee members can kind of share with everybody, I think it's something on the order of 218 acres. Is that about right?
That's about right.
Pretty close.
Yeah, pretty close.
240
acres. Yeah. That was amazing to me, and how much the scope, again, I often thought of just the people that mow and edge and do the green belt, but then, didn't realize the slope areas, didn't realize the, behind all the homes, a lot of you have concerns about the trees and the growth and the irrigation, that they're responsible for that. Also, again, is something as simple as our marquees at the end of our streets where the planters are, and keeping those looking nice. And my first thought is, wow, that is a huge, huge job. And I only see like 8 guys.
How many acres did you say that was?
240?
Yeah, originally, I always thought that the assessment just covered the green parts that you see when you drive through Phillips Ranch. And I was amazed that the open area should also be covered by the assessment and condition that they're in. And I live on Skyline, and behind my home I have a walkway that used to be covered with nice ivy and ground cover and bushes. And over the years, because water has been turned off, irrigation is broken, it's turned into dirt. And the only thing that seems to grow in there are the pepper trees and pine trees. And I personally have had discussions with the city about this tree behind my house. It's huge, and it keeps covering my yard. So it took me close to 3 years to trim the branches off the thing, just to kind of protect my home. But all of this is supposed to be covered by the assessment. So it was amazing and a real eye-opener when you start looking at the acreage in Phillips Ranch and what this assessment should pay for, and unfortunately it doesn't cover everything. So it does create a big fire hazard, especially if you look on the hills. You look at Rainbow Ridge and that big hill that's along there. Well, that should all be covered, but if you look in there, if you drive down Rainbow Ridge, you'll see it's generally dead trees for the most part, dead bushes.
So I think we all have a pretty good idea of the current status. So that's a look at where we're at today. I think it's important for us to find out how we got to this point. I want to walk you through how we got to this point, how the assessment district and our fee hasn't changed since 1992 actually. And what we need to do as a group to go forward to improve both the aesthetics and the safe living in our community. And with that, Onyx, would you please walk us through the standard tax allocation slide?
Sure, thank you.
Thank you.
I'll come over here so everyone can hear me. I had the privilege of being able to come out and speak with the committee, and I was very thankful because one of the major questions that they had and they posed to me was, where are our property tax dollars going? And it's really an important question to answer because when you see the needs in your area, you want to know where's the money going that I pay on my property tax bill. And so I had an opportunity to sit down with the committee. Of course, I brought them stacks and stacks of papers and graphs and charts and we went through it all. But I've condensed the information down to 2 slides tonight just to kind of give you a short version. But I do want you to know that I have given them the details behind this. So this is kind of a short story. If there were no redevelopment in the area of Phillips Ranch, And it was just a regular area within the city, and we received property tax dollars for just paying your normal payment. What would happen, and what these numbers here at the bottom are actual numbers that were received in the Phillips Ranch area, not received by us, but were received by the county. So you have $15.9 million came in through the Phillips Ranch area. And in that, here's the breakdown of how the property tax dollars would be divided. So for every dollar that's paid, 52 cents would go to other taxing entities, and then 25 cents would be the county pass-through, and then 23 cents would go to the city. The other taxing entities are like special districts, the K through 12, schools, colleges, normal distributions of property tax dollars. Redevelopment came along, and there was an opportunity for cities to take redevelopment, form redevelopment areas, and use the monies that come in to help develop areas that may be difficult to get developers to come in, may be difficult to attract businesses, whether the areas are blighted, they're completely underdeveloped, so they don't have sewer, water, they have nothing, and we're trying to get someone to come in, so there's a huge cost. If they're gonna put a mall or a business there, they have to put all the infrastructure in. And so those monies were really used to attract businesses to areas that maybe ordinarily a business would not have looked in that particular spot. And so redevelopment was for all the cities in the state of California took advantage of. So just about every city out there has a redevelopment, had a redevelopment agency. So with that, there was this base that we established for, these are the property taxes we received before redevelopment came along. And any property taxes that are received after the redevelopment agency is formed, they're now called property tax increments. And they can be used for development agreements, they can be used to pay debt. And with the city of Pomona, there was debt acquired that helped build up this area. So prior to that, there was not a whole lot in this area. So now we have the shopping centers, we have the 71 freeway coming through. So all this development came about over the years, and there was debt acquired. Well, any property tax increment that comes in is going to go pay debt. So this is how it could have been years ago, or how it could have been if we didn't do redevelopment. But the next slide will show you how it truly is today. So what occurs today is an interesting dynamic for this particular Southwest redevelopment area. Each area is different, each area is treated differently, but I studied this and I went through with the committee. And so the first part of the 15.9 million is actually goes straight to the county. So they get their money off the top. There was an agreement that was made with the county at the time redevelopment was formed. And the agreement established for the Southwest area that the county would get 49% of the property tax dollars when it comes through the door. So we get 15.9, immediately the county pass-through gets 7.8 plus 266 in admin fees. So when you add that together, you have the 7.8 that just goes out the door. Then after that, you have what's called a pass-through. And that is over here with the other taxing entities. So those again are the school districts, the K through 12, community colleges, etc. So that funding goes there. So then you get to redevelopment enforceable obligations. These are the things that we have to pay because redevelopment did exist. We did build a lot, and there was debt that was acquired during that time. There were development agreements that were made. And so now that money has to be paid back. So that money goes into redevelopment. And then what's left is what would go to the city, which is the $717,000. So out of the $15 million that comes in this area, the city gets $717,000.
Is that just Phillips Ranch?
Yes.
Okay.
Just the Southwest. No. Just the Southwest area. And And each redevelopment area, we have many redevelopment areas throughout the city. In fact, we had 11. They're all treated differently. Some of them were not a part of the county agreement. This particular area was the largest area that was with the county agreement. Now, the county agreement does have some advantages in that if we're ever short and we can't pay the debt, the county has to pay. So we have ensured the bondholders that they will get paid. So that is a piece of the agreement that was generated. I think when I say, I always use the term our forefathers of Pomona. So we weren't around when this all, this was back in the early 80s, as far as employment is concerned. And so I was around, but I certainly wasn't aware of, this, but the decisions that were made at that time, I'm sure the vision was, well, I know it was in the documents. We're going to have these malls, and we're going to have an auto center drive. So there's going to be all these auto centers and car places. And you may recall that the economy kind of did some dips, and when we thought things were going to be great, there was a recession that hit. And so the development didn't quite materialize we still have a lot of development, but not at the level that I think they intended at the time they did the agreement. So their thought was we would be at a much higher level now. We could pay down debt. We wouldn't have to borrow from the county. For many years, we did have to borrow. We borrowed up to about $16 million from the county over the years to make the debt payment, because there were times where the property tax dollars were not enough. They are now. We are self-sufficient now, but previously we weren't. So we were actually borrowing money from the county. So that's kind of the story. It's hard to predict sometimes.
But this is not part of the assessment, right? This is separate?
No.
Separate.
But just real quickly, when the county pass-through, then does it have an end?
So the county pass-through does have an end. It happens to correlate with our debt maturity. So our debt matures in about 2041. We just refunded our debt. Now.
Probably dead.
Yeah. 2041. Now, here's some things that we did do since I've been here. We refinanced the debt. We had about 8 different bonds. 8 different bonds that were done at different times. They covered different areas within the city, different redevelopment areas. So we did refund the bonds, and our debt service payment citywide is about $14 million a year. So we refunded the debt, and we lowered it by about $1 million a year. So we had some significant savings by doing the refund. We did not extend the debt, so it still matures the same time period. Unfortunately, not sooner, but it will mature at the same time period. So this amount will go up because we now have additional money annually to work with, so there will be more residual. So that amount should go up. But yes, now when that debt is paid, then we go back to the standard allocation.
Another 23 years.
Yes.
Yes.
Or are you seeing all of the? Yes, so as new development comes up and they start paying property taxes, they become part of this calculation. Absolutely. It's the same calculation. It's the same calculation, unfortunately. Yeah, so we would still continue to get the 5 cents of a dollar.
Yeah, that's it.
So there's like a lot of growth that would have to occur for it to be significant. So it is disappointing. And one could say, well, who should have made that deal? Who should have, done the deal? Why would they make those decisions? But again, I know the intent was to develop the area because there wasn't anything here previously. So when these agreements were made, the intent was we're going to have the shopping centers, and we do. There's the Walmart, there's Target, there's lots of centers that are here as a result of those efforts. Maybe we wanted more, we wanted better results, but unfortunately, it didn't turn out that way. Again, and yes, ma'am?
This strikes me as a bit predatory. Can you talk about what we're trying to do to address that issue?
Yes. So there are 2 pieces that I would like to address. The county doesn't, but I want to address. As I said to you previously, this county pass-through amount, this was some decision that our forefathers made. So the 49 cents that goes right out the door for every dollar, that actually exceeds what would be standard for what a county would get through our pass-through. It's a little bit higher than the norm. And so one argument that I have with the county, and I've talked to the mayor and the city manager, and we've actually had sit-down meetings with the county about this, asking them to justify it, to show us how they're able to collect this, besides the fact that the agreement was made. There's certain laws and rules that are out there that have statutory caps that they can't exceed. And so because this agreement was done, doesn't mean that it excuses the fact that there are caps out there that exist. So we've had those conversations, and we are working with them on this matter. The other piece that we're going to be working with them is that we did have to borrow, as I indicated, $16 million. And they gave us a debt repayment schedule recently. It kind of, just lays out how we would pay them the $16 million back. But at the end of the schedule, it was something like $200 million that we would end up paying them for borrowing the 16.
Yeah, right.
So that is a discussion that is underway. The good news is they paused our discussion because another city in a similar situation is pursuing it, and the DOF denied their request, the county's request to receive this money as continue receiving it on the enforceable obligation. And so the county's kind of scrambling to figure out how to address another city's issue. And so I've asked the city manager for us to pursue it at the same time so they can address it for us. I feel like we would have the state on our side in this matter, because in fact what happens is the money's going to the county, it's not going to the schools. If it doesn't go to the schools, the state has to back those schools. And we all know the state likes to look out for the state, so. And so, it's a very complicated issue. It's one of those that will likely involve some city attorneys and feedback and county attorneys getting involved with it, because there was an agreement that was made, but we don't care. The agreement was made many, many years ago, and it is now harming the city. And I don't think it was the intent of the agreement that would pay $200 million back for borrowing 60. That was never the intent. So we were just.
As a point of clarification, however, even if it went to a normal allocation, it still doesn't help Phillips Ranch. Is that correct? Because we have a special assessment that's supposed to take care of Phillips Ranch.
Correct. The special assessment is obviously to take care of the things that are unique to the Phillips Ranch area. Obviously, and I don't want to put my neck out there, but if the revenues coming into the city were more in the terms of the, the $3 million, and you add that times all the redevelopment areas, there would be more funding to work with to address parks and the standard type of maintenance that would be done. But that money simply isn't there. So it kind of compounds the problem, because you have things that are unique to the Phillips Ranch area that needs to be addressed. But then you just have some standard maintenance upkeep that we would like to do citywide. If we had the funding, we would do it citywide. It wouldn't exclude Phillips Ranch, it would just be citywide. But we have to get to that place.
My concern about mixing these two issues.
Thank you, Onyx. We really appreciate you. And you could stay. I think when Onyx came in and did the presentation to our committee, the thing that stuck out in our minds was the 49%. When was the last time you paid 49% on something that you purchased? And we're lucky to have her, along with the city manager and city attorney, to go in along with other cities that have similar things to try to get that number reduced. Now we're going to go back and focus on the assessment district. This was overall. And so many of you probably don't even know what the assessment district is. There's an old rumor that the old HOA, way before the assessment district, used to collect money to pay for the maintenance of Phillips Ranch. That's not true. I don't know how many people think that, or how many people think that they were befundled by people collecting money, but that's just not true. What you're looking at here, if you look at all the years starting in 1981 and go all the way up to the red line, 1995, as the need arose each and every year, when the city went out and did RFPs and worked with contractors, the amount that was on your tax bill, the money you see on the rate is what's annually on your tax bill for the assessment district. So all the way up to 1995 and 96, I would say, correct me if I'm wrong, but we look pretty good around here. I think that the ranch looked great. And so they were able to do that legally. And then all of a sudden, 1996 rolled around. Go to the next slide, please. And incidentally, I have to go back one more. On $278, which is the current assessment fee, I don't know how many of you looked at your tax bill lately, but the Pomona Unified, is $900 on your tax bill, just as comparison to our assessment district, which is $278. I'd ask you to think about how much you pay your personal gardener. Let's say you pay $75 a month. That's $900 annually. For maintaining 248 acres, you're paying $278. What about your pool? I don't know about you, but I pay $100 a month. And so just to give you a comparison, it's a bargain. Along came Proposition 218 that the voters voted in 1995-96. And essentially what it says is cities and county governments state can no longer assess fees to the residents without it going before a vote of the public. So go back to the last chart again. So you can see that we sat here between all this time from 1995, 96 till now. You've been paying the same exact thing on your taxes each and every year, $278. So the residents recognized, and as did the city in the year 2008, that it's starting to go downhill. It doesn't look good. What should we do? Has to go to a vote of the public. When it goes to the vote of the public, it's a mail-in vote. And guess what happened in 2008? There was a recession. No one would have voted yes, as we just did in this fine city, on the tax measure. And so it was voted down. So City Council, there are copies of the staff report over here, along with kind of the executive summary of the staff report. If you go to the next page, please. I want to really focus on what they said would happen and tell you that it has happened. And now we're at the situation where we're in and we need to fix it. The primary focus of the Phillips Ranch maintenance will be services related to safety, liability situations such as brush clearance for fire prevention, weed abatement, hazardous trees, and other safety issues. The city's commitment to the highest possible standards of care will remain consistent, but negative impacts will certainly be evident given the levels of reduction. These negative impacts could include the browning of turf, stress to certain plant materials, pest infestations, and increased response time for routine services when we call in and want a tree cut down. Impacts to the routine services are projected as follows. Anticipated reductions, mowing, edging, and blowing. That's happened. Routine tree trimming requests. I don't know how long it takes you to get one. It took me better than a year at my personal property to get some trees trimmed on city land. Frequency of fertilizing. I can't remember the last time we fertilized, in case someone knows that. Frequency of shrub trimming. Anticipated elimination in service. Winter renovation and overseeding program of all turf areas. Entryway flags and seasonal flowers, etc. It was predictable. It was going to happen. And no one's done anything about it until now. Now we have this group, and we're really anxious to present to you what we think we should be doing going forward. So go to the next slide, please. Next, to take a look at the assessment. So if we're each paying $278 a year, how much do we generate? We generate $927,000. And I can tell you that's not even close to what it needs to be for us to do proper maintenance to this. So. Yeah, we do have some new properties coming on board, and they will generate slight revenue, but not anything to take us near where we need $50,000. $50,000. Okay, so not even close. So we have a fund balance of $300,000 right now. If we elect to go forward with a vote to the public, we have to hire a consultant. That's about $50,000. So we roughly have $250,000 left in our budget. Let's take a look at the Consumer Price Index on the next slide. So if we just took the $278 that we were paying in 1995 and grew that by the US CPI index, today it'd be $458. If we take a look at the local Anaheim, Riverside, Los Angeles index, that 278 would have grown to $471. Think about all the things that we do and that we purchase. We went back and staff went back and took a look at some of the prices. Stamps, 29 cents, now 46 cents. A dozen eggs, a gallon of regular gas, minimum wage, soon to be $15, mind you, and bread, from $1.50 to $2.50. Let's take a look now at what the ad hoc committee has done since we formed. We formed in May. We toured the district. We took 2 separate weeks and got a bus and went to all of these various areas that we've shown you videos of or slides of, and we were all amazed at the condition of it and just the enormity of the task at hand. We elected a chair and vice chair, and we set medium decorum. We've been utilizing Robert's rules for our current meetings. In June, we had Onyx come in and also the city attorney, and we looked at the redevelopment agency and what it did and property tax situation. And then in July, we reviewed the district formation. We reviewed the loan from the city of loan to LA County, and Onyx was kind enough to do that for us. And then we decided, what should we do going forward? So we decided to break into some subcommittees. One subcommittee is Brian here and others, and it's all the communications, and you've seen a lot of stuff on Nextdoor and all of the signs and stuff, and Brian's been largely responsible for that. We broke into another subcommittee to take a look at the 2 current agreements that we have, look at the construction of those agreements, determine what we should do legally going forward with those agreements, and also to take a look at the scope of those agreements. We're really fortunate to have Philip Marino on our committee. This is what he does for a living. We have the most detailed take a look at what we're paying for, what our dollars are paying for. Go to the next slide, please. We developed a media approach during September, and we refined the service levels. And what I mean by refining the service levels, Philip put together a spreadsheet and said, if you're city A through city C, what would you look like? And everything from mowing to fertilizer to irrigation, every possible, how many things are on there? 200?
That's pretty close to that.
Probably 200 specifics in our agreements that we pulled apart and took a look at, and the committee said, where should we be? A was Disneyland and Newport Beach, and B was probably Irvine, and when you get around to kind of C and D, it was more like Chino Hills and Diamond Bar. And so we chose to take a look at all those service levels, and I think that the total subcommittee, when we got together, I think you were exhausted by the time the night was over, and we had several meetings talking about it with staff, and item by item by item went through and said, this is where we think we should be. We think we should be somewhere around between a C and a D. And our next step is we want to know what you think where we should be. And then we're going to take it out, and we're going to take your information that you give us tonight in the question and answer period, and we're going to take a look during. Let me see.
I want to touch on that real quick. When we went through, when he's talking about like the service levels A, B, and C, and D, it's based on frequencies. It's how often they're doing a certain task. So if you want to see color all the time, you want to see it every once a month, that's going to be obviously more money. That's more like a service level A. If you want to see fertilization of the turf, you want to see that every other month. That's more money. That's the highest service level. So it's all kind of based on the service level that you want, based on what the frequencies are. So that's kind of what we broke down. Okay, service level A. Our goal is to find out service level A will be this amount, B would be this amount, C, D, and so forth.
Thank you.
That's what we're shooting for.
So we're here tonight to try to seek your input. So we've refined the service levels and what we think they should be. We're going to continue media outreach. In November, December, we're going to begin to get estimates on what it's going to take to, 1, get the thing back to a standard, fix everything that's broken, and then 2, have a normal maintenance, annual maintenance. We've got great ideas about how to change the contracts and the specific language we should put in, and having such things as performance bonds in the contract, et cetera, that we can ding the contractors on. So we've got a pretty good idea on that. But here's what we need to do next. Once we get that number, we need to calculate what that means to the assessment district. And on an annual basis, it's $278 now. It won't be $278 going forward. We're also going to recommend that an annual CPI is included with whatever we recommend so that we can keep pace with inflation. And so the one-time cleanup and all of the maintenance that we think is necessary with your input tonight, we're going to take all that along with the city and we're going to go out and try to find out how much that costs. We want to come back to you in come back to you in February and say, here's what we found out. Here's how much it's going to cost. Now what do you think about all the changes that you've requested at our meeting? Okay? In order to get this thing approved, our next step is we need to go before City Council. We'll do both a study session and we'll do at a City Council meeting, we'll show our findings to City Council. If they approve that, we need to then begin a campaign to the residents, the homeowners, and also the commercial businesses pay in this as well. They pay a higher share than we do. But then we need to get to everyone, and Brian's going to do a great job of doing this in community outreach. In April, there'll be mail-out ballots. And so we're either going to have an option A or an option B. In May and June, the ballots will be tallied. We'll send this out. We'll go before City Council again. We're going to review the results. Go to option A. So if the voter approves it, we're going to go forward with the new landscape plan and submit new assessment fee to LA County for the tax roll. And we're going to implement the improved landscape services. Option B. If it's denied, we're going to go forward with the Phillips Ranch current assessment in the district and the rates and the impacts going forward. And the ad hoc committee is going to have to make some really tough decisions working with staff on what we want to do. We have $900,000. What's more important to you, the safety of our community or getting new water fountains? What's more important to you, cutting down the trees and the walkways in the green belt, getting those cut down, or fertilizing and replanting grass? Should we reforest? There are a bunch of decisions we're going to have to make, and they're going to be very, very tough ones, I can tell you, if this vote doesn't go to a yes. And I don't know if any committee members want to say anything before we go to question and answer. So,
very good.
The one thing we're going to do is we're going to say, regardless of whether it goes to option A or B, we think there should be an oversight committee made of members of the community that are interested, that could work with the city to be the eyes and ears of the city.
Laura, Ron.
Work along with staff to assist. If this goes through, we're going to try to fund one full-time person. Michael mentioned that in his video, that can do nothing more than follow up on the contractors on a daily basis. There's going to be criteria in the contract on a daily, weekly, monthly basis of things that they have to do and submit reports. And both the oversight committee as well as that full-time employee will be following up on that to get this back to where it belongs. And I have a sign-in sheet for the oversight committee, and we'll put that over on the table for anyone that's interested. We'll entertain questions now, please.
How many homes are community assessed?
About 3,500.
And does that include Mission Hill Estate?
Yes.
Is that part of it?
Yes,
Yes, it does.
So, for whatever reason, I thought there's a lot more homes than that. That explains the
$9,000. Correct.
situation.
Yes, and back, please.
Okay, so I have a question. I don't understand a lot of this stuff, I have to committee. I still, so at what point, what portion of the city's responsibilities for this ranch are we like on our own? For example, there are sidewalks in the village that are like this. If someone trips and hurts themselves, are they going to sue the city? In which case, would not the city have a vested interest in making sure our sidewalks are safe? But or is that part of our problem because a tree root that should be part of our assessment is making the sidewalks unsafe?
Meg, I'm going to defer the answer to the question, please.
Where's that distinction?
First off, I would like to say, if you see a tripping hazard like that, please let us know right away. Please, 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 tell us, ask us, give us a call, please. But secondarily, it is the responsibility of the assessment district. So it would be the responsibility of that fund to then take care of anything that's related to it, including that. So,
Including city sidewalks?
yes.
So the city
sidewalks that we're
has no
putting in as a-
responsibility for safety on sidewalks?
No.
So is there a difference?
Okay, we're always responsible for the safety. So let's start there. We're always, which is why I'm asking you to please call us and let us know so that we can address it. How we fund it is through the Phillips Ranch Assessment District. So
it comes back to us, it's a fancy way of saying it's still your responsibility.
Well, yes.
I mean, you can say I'm responsible, the city's got a vested interest, but really, you're saying, but you gotta pay for it.
And that is when the assessment district was first established, there was nothing here. There were no sidewalks, there were no streetlights, there were no walkways, there were no, so the assessment district was developed in order to provide sidewalks.
I know too.
So whenever there's a whiteout or a sidewalk or anything, we're paying for it from our assessment.
We are. We are. And I think a fair,
So the city's not paying for anything.
well, I'll give you a good comparison though. Look at any new home development, Ontario Ranch, anything within the geography of Temecula, wherever you want to go. Now there's a Mello-Roos. The taxation on the Mello-Roos is 2% and over. We're paying $278 a year on your tax bill versus paying 2% of your home value. It's amazing.
And Meg, it's just one thing too, real quick. At some point, the assessment district was paying for the maintenance of the parks, right? And but the city's taken those back and they're maintaining those as part of the general fund. So we're not actually paying for everything within the ranch.
Thank you for that. And we're also, police services, fire services, roadway services. There are a lot of services being provided by the city. But your question about the sidewalks, that's part of the assessment district.
Please.
The new developments in Lenore development, are they going to be included in the assessment?
They are.
Yes.
And it's about $50,000 roughly between that and the townhome development.
At the current rates.
Yeah.
Somebody,
Please.
I'm just curious, maybe too soon to know, but I'm always interested in the term. We were to pick option A after we go through the reviews, we go through the reviews. Do we have any idea how much that will increase our property values?
No.
If we chose no, how much we would lose?
At this point, we don't have that. We'll do the calculation on what it's going to cost on the tax roll. But I think it's a matter of civic pride, and I think it just makes sense that if we live in a beautiful area, people are going to want to live, people are going to want to come here. And I think property values will go up if it's maintained better. I think that's just common sense.
You know, that's a very good question. Pardon? If I can interject something, we did talk to a couple of real estate agents on the budget. And one of the things that they point out about the ranch is the beauty of the ranch and how it's unique across a lot of cities. And one of the things they said was, you know, it has to add, quantitatively it's hard to do, but it has to add to the value to see a beautifully kept, beautiful trees, vegetation. So in answer to your question, it's difficult to tell, but we did talk to real estate agents and they all agree. That's one of the things we've been pointing out when people are looking at buying our area.
And if we personalize it, most of us who have lived here for a long time, when we came here, we went to buy, we bought here because it was beautiful. Yeah. Wait, hang on, I think this guy.
Well, I just wanted to add to that. First, I wanted to say thank you, because I don't think anything like, unless maybe 20 years like this has ever been done. So thank you all for
Thank you.
I remember the 2008 initiative, and to all of your big, like we bought in 2003, so whatever as long as you, with 15 years, we've seen it at maybe its heyday, because it was really nice hours, it was here, everything was great, everything was wonderful. I just wanted to add, I think that at the time that was missold, and from a value perspective and everything else, I don't think it was done the right way. I remember the first thing talking with neighbors was I think at the time there was a bill of what, 1.3 for Spectrum, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the whole point was that we owe Spectrum more than we have. And to me, that was a contract mismanagement issue, where we should have never had a contract with somebody that gave them the ability to go out and mow lawn every day and then bill us for more than the money we had. And I remember that because we commented with neighbors and everybody said, yeah, those guys are out there mowing the lawn every single day, back and forth. And they knew that they had a contract that they would win on. I don't think they knew how much our budget was. So I don't even know, I'm assuming that's been addressed since then, where we don't have a contract now where they can just go out and bill us whatever they want.
Yes,
But
right. Yes.
It's my understanding how it existed at that time. It wasn't a task order contract. They didn't set what they wanted to do, when they wanted to do it. But what was happening is the general fund, which was much healthier in those days, was helping to offset the cost of that contract. So it was allowed to be increased because the general fund was doing much better. As the general fund was not doing as well, that money was no longer available to help fund that contract at that higher level. I believe it had to shrink for those reasons, rather than just go
But
ahead.
I'm saying that the way it was sold to the public and the market was that we only brought in, I don't know, let's say 900K, and we owe these guys 1.3, we need more money because, and like, I've been in finance accounting my whole life. So to me, that was just sold the wrong way to the public, because I think they looked at this and said, well, you know what, maybe we should have signed a contract for 900K. But also what was not known, I don't think I ever knew that we paid for sidewalks and lights and other types of issues. And
You also have to remember water's in that as well.
So I'm saying
Big
all
part,
the
yeah.
research that you guys are doing, obviously the general public may not want to do that much research on their own.
Right.
But I think you need to market this increase in a way where it can go to them and say it affects property values, it affects your health and safety. The level of scope of what's included in this assessment, meaning like, you know, sidewalks and streetlights and everything, because I think they literally thought, well, if we just decrease the number of time it's being mowed, then we're back in the box. And they didn't know that all the rest of this stuff would go down, even though it was in the documentation.
Right.
I don't think the average person voting realized what they were voting for.
Can I add, I just, in 2008, I mean, it's been our experience is diving into this, that it wasn't sold at all. I mean, nothing like this even happened. Nobody looked into it. Nobody communicated to the community. No one tried to inform and let you know what's really going on with your money and your neighborhood and stuff. And we have found, and again, being residents, we have found, you know, it's been hard for us too. We see what we say was mismanagement, or quite frankly, lack of management. Not mismanagement per se, but nobody was keeping an eye on the ball that was going on. But moving forward, what that means is we need to come up with proposals and ideas that we help you feel comfortable moving forward, that there's going to be like a citizens oversight committee that will keep an eye on the ball, that will not let it happen like it did in the past. And it's really important to us that we try to implement and put things in place to make you feel comfortable with that as well. So it's not what it was in 2008, and you can see there's been a lot of effort put in to try to investigate and then disseminate that information to you folks.
Do you want to go?
Yeah, thank you all. I mean, this concept is amazing. And honestly, it's going to get better. I moved in, my husband and I bought our house here in 1998, and yes, that things definitely look a lot different than they do now, and we're hopeful that now the oversight committee and all this work that you're doing to see where the money is going, and just better our community here. But I really appreciate everything that you're doing, because this not only speaks for us, but also, you know, for the rest of Pomona, that, you know what, the citizens really can make a difference. So we really appreciate that. But my question is, I'm putting this card in my car and my speed dial. The number that is listed here for parks, like if we're driving around, like I constantly see sprinklers going the wrong direction, hitting the street, ones are busted, watering something, shouldn't even water, which the pipe right next to it is dry. Should we be calling in this as your or those things like that as well?
620-2223.
Yes, yeah.
Oh.
Okay, so things like, a sprinkler, a down tree, all of it, whatever. Just call them.
Before I field the next question,
Does that include weed abatement? I mean, there's on Pomona Road behind my house, the weeds were hit by mine. That's where we all know what happened up north there. It's going to happen there.
it's part of what we're looking at, is exactly it. Can I ask this before I field the next question? So Philip mentioned that he pulled apart the contract, and there were 200 different things, from mowing to edging to so on and so forth.
Weed abatement.
Weed abatement is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
So we've made some decisions. As an example, the parkway between the sidewalk and the street, we don't think that should be grass. We think it should be some low-lying shrubs. We want to take water conservation into the picture as we do this. But if I could just ask by show of hands, you think we're on the right track? Should we be doing like a C and D, something between Chino Hills and the Diamond Bar? Or do you want something more, or do you want something less? Show of hands, is C and D adequate to everyone?
Can I ask a question again?
Thank you. And right here, question right here.
He's been waiting for quite some time.
I just want to ask, under option A, can you tell me what the assessment fee is?
No, that's why we're here.
That's why we're here.
We're here to gain your input along with our ideas to put it out to bid in the rest of November and December, to then do the calculations and come back to you in February with what it would be.
Because we're not in a position at all. We've been gathering data, putting together models, but we're not in a position at all.
We want to hear from you what it should be and what should be done.
Your committee has not come up with the
No, that's the next step, right after this meeting. Please.
Yes. Hi. I've only been a recent resident here for about 4 years. My question is, you guys don't have to get out of here. In my particular instance, we have these large pepper trees that not only are they a fire hazard, but we're overlooking. We would normally have a beautiful view. Okay, you can't see anything. You sit down in your backyard where you would have $1 million lease. All you see are these overgrown pepper trees. Is the aesthetics of your view going to be part of your consideration in that type of thing? Or
We're currently taking a look at both the open space and fuel modifications and trying to determine, should we cut it back 25 feet, 50 feet? Should we let it grow in between? What's the best thing to do for both safety and property value? So
I think this question was more in line with the tree trimming.
Exactly.
I have the same thing.
The capping of the trees, because the pepper trees are growing so high, and if they do catch, you know, it's an instant inferno. But not only that, but like I said, sometimes, I'm an older guy, I like to sit on the back, we did a lot of work in the backyard, infrastructure. You sit down and look, you can't see anything.
No, I have the same thing behind my house.
Okay.
I used to have a view.
Yes.
And now it's a forest. Because of the pepper tree that's.
Exactly, the pepper and the pepper tree, yes.
In the early days of Phillips Ranch, generally, like every other year, I think it was, on some regular schedule, they would come in and thin all these trees out, and it would look really great.
Well, you're making your decisions, though, will that be?
yeah, there are 12,000 trees, and we'd like to get back to a cycle much closer to what it used to be versus where it's at now. But don't forget, we got that one-time cost, that cleanup cost. Let's go in and try to renovate everything, get it fixed, and then maintain it. So yes, I think the answer to your question is yes.
But to talk to you too about the trees, the typical standard is they're not going to be removing trees. I'm pretty sure you don't want to remove it.
You have to have ground cover. I understand you need that, but remove the trees and you have slide.
Also too,
if you have rain, so. But if you have a tree that is 15 to 20 feet too high, we just want to cap.
The normal standard, Michael can correct me, but we're not topping trees. That's not a normal standard that they're typically going to follow. So I don't want you to think part of that clean would be going through and run a chainsaw straight across, so there's a line of sight.
You can't do that, but, you know, there's, that's great. I think you understand.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. I just want to make sure you know that there's not going to be, okay, we're going to straight top that tree. That's not. That didn't break me.
Yeah, no, we wouldn't top something, we would probably, and everything's funding contingent, so removing a tree costs, if they charge, even if you don't grind the roots, which you typically wouldn't if it's on a slope, it's $20 per inch thick that tree is. Okay. So if you have a tree that's a foot thick, then it's gonna be $250 just to cut it down. And then like those crown reductions I was talking about, those are $200 something also to come in, and that just thins it out so you'll be able to see through a little more. But yeah, I would not recommend topping trees. Usually when that happens, it's from Edison.
Well, the crown reduction.
Yeah, and
yeah, that'd be.
The crown reduction would be adequate.
That'd be closer to me getting.
You know, so. Okay, thank you, John.
This ad hoc committee needs your help. Brian's done an outstanding job via media of getting the word out. We've had signs posted. I can't say this turnout is dismal because I'm happy that each and every one of you are here, but we could use your help in getting the word out. Between now and February, we're going to do a heck of a lot of work to get down to what it's going to take to do it and get down. Should we put this thing out to a vote in the public? Encourage your neighbors, your friends, every resident that you know. Let them know that we're doing this work. Brian's going to continue to post things on a weekly basis, and we want you to come back in February and take a look at what we've come up with. Mayor, please.
I'll be incredibly brief, like most elected officials are. I just want to say just thank you. Thank you to the ad hoc committee. When the council decided to set up the ad hoc committee, we didn't realize that you guys would be meeting 138 times. But we do appreciate it. So we appreciate your time, and I think the residents here can see by the presentation, this was rather impressive.
Okay.
We also just thank the residents. We appreciate you being here. I think for us to be able to get over that goal line, it's going to really require all of you talking to your neighbors, your friends, getting out that message. We're not quite there yet, but we're getting pretty close. And given that nothing has changed since 1996, I think most people understand why it's necessary to increase that rate. I just want to express my thanks on behalf of the council and our city staff. So, you're welcome.
I'd just like to say that in working on the ad hoc committee, we've been working really closely with staff. And I understand, I hear it on social media and places all the time about staff getting a real hard time. There's been nobody who's been more helpful with this than the group of staff that we've had working with us, giving us information, giving us all the reports we want, spending all the time walking the community, as well as people like Michael who are really committed to doing this right. We talked about what's different than it was in 2008. Well, I mean, Michael's one of that. Our city staff here that are committed to helping, and they've just done an amazing job. And I'm super comfortable with them being involved in helping manage and move this forward. All right.
Yes, please.
I have a question. There's this nuisance that I've been noticing, and I see here that one of the negative impacts is the SN station. Gophers. As I drive down Rio Rancho, I see a lot of gopher moles. Behind my property, I see gopher holes, and they've actually come onto my property. I have children that come to this school here, and the park right here, half of the park belongs to the city, and half of it belongs to the school.
The other half to the Gophers.
Is that the fingers pointed at each other. That's the city's responsibility. The city says that's the school responsibility. It's actually a hazard here because responsibility.
See, there you go. Well, let's ask our public works director to take a look at that for us.
What are we doing to address this problem? Because I have children that go to school here. I volunteer here on Thursdays, and half of the time they can't go out on the field for PE because of all the holes. We don't want our children to trip and break a leg or sprain an ankle. So what are we doing about these nuisances?
You know, I'm not sure if that falls under the assessment committee, but it is a community concern that's been there for years and years and years. You know,
Gopher abatement out there just like last week.
We do treat for gophers and we coordinate with maintenance as much as we can. The gophers don't really care about whose it is or where it is. I was out on South Gary in the medians the other day where it's paved everywhere, pretty much as far as you can see. There's gophers living in the middle of there. Like, when we treat them, and they go under the road and then come up somewhere else and live there. So it's a very difficult situation. We actually run into that with a lot where we have.
We need to hire Bill Murray.
Gophers are on the hillside behind my house. We go treat the gophers on the hillside, but then their yard rubs with gophers because that's where all the gophers went. And they have to treat them there, and it's just, they're well adapted to this area.
I'd like to thank you all for coming out this evening. On the table over here, if you have any comments, cards, leave them there. Also, there's a sign-up sheet if you want to be part of the solution and sign up for the Oversight Committee going forward. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.